What's going on, guys? Sekapoko here, bringing you another 7 Deadly Sins Carry No Grand Cross video. For this, we'll be going over all the teams I use to beat the training cave and what I'm using for different spots and explanations on different replacements that you could possibly use for different situations. So guys, without further ado, let's go and jump right into it. Alright guys, so the first fight we're going to be doing is for the level 3 versions of all the fights going through the cave. And if you can't do the level 3 versions, it's okay to do a level 2 version. Just do what you have to do. So for the first fight, I'm going to be using a Blue Meliodas with Milim combination. And I'm also going to be using Rimuru as well as Blue Diane in order to get to the level 3. So in order to do this, I want to make sure I'm using attack food, HP food, or CP food, depending on what I need in order to make sure I win on CP. Now with attack food, this makes it a lot easier to blow through because I'm able to do more damage to Slader and I don't have to worry about as much. So it gives you a little bit extra edge on this fight. Now one of the other units I used in the backline, which was really nice to use last time, was I used Death Pierce in order to get more crits on this. So he was actually a very, very nice unit to use in that situation. So on turn 1 here, what I'm going to do is drop a debuff, drop Blue Meliodas' attack, and then I'm going to use Milim's attack in order to do some damage and just chip away a little bit. Yeah, on turn 1 here, we got really bad RNG, and he ended up killing my, what's his name? Other guy. Can't remember his name. Rimuru. Unfortunate, but it happens sometimes. You can't do anything about it, but it is what it is. But I actually got some interesting RNG on my Blue Meliodas. So what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to go ahead and drop a Blue Meliodas ulti, drop his counter ability, and then I'm going to drop a Milim attack. Alright, so for the second fight, unfortunately, my sound software picked up my my music there, and because I left it on and I didn't record, but I'm going to be using a Jillian team with Green Meliodas in order to get myself more HP in the Meliodas. Jillian's passive gives 30% more HP, and then I'll be running, you should run HP food. I ended up running attack food in the first run and running HP food on the second run. But this run will showcase a little bit more on what you can do with this type of team in order to beat Hendrickson. And it's really similar to the Hendrickson fight that you did originally, except now, of course, now you have way more gear and it's a lot easier, but this Hendrickson hits much harder than the original Hendrickson, which is annoying. So for this fight, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be fighting this Hendrickson with no gear at all, so it is going to be a little bit trickier than the original fight. So what I would recommend doing, since he gets 3 different attacks every time, is you can actually use Gilthunder for an ulti gauge rollback. You can use Green Merlin here if you wanted to. Those are 2 great characters to use, but if you're going to do that, using Green Meliodas is a little bit more problematic because using Merlin's shield and Green Meliodas together don't really synergize, so that is a slight problem that you may have. You can also use Green Elaine to roll back the enemy's ultimate if you want to, or derank their skills if you want to. I find Gilthunder to be the best of both worlds because he's, you know, a very cheap unit to get, and you're gonna have him level 60 anyways because of the story mode. So with Gilthunder, I just ended up pushing back his ultimate on the second run, but on the first run, I got really bad RNG and wasn't able to do anything and actually died because of that. So going into the second run, my main thought and focus was just DPS the boss down as best I can, and if I do get the counter, great. And then when I end with the counter here, it's gonna be awesome. The next fight I'm going to be using is going to be a Blue Gallant with Red Liz combination. Red Liz for healing, as well as anytime a unit is hit, they're going to receive a 10% of their max HP heal. I'm also going to be using Blue Gallant and Marmus together because Marmus increases HP by 30%, and Gallant is going to taunt the boss, and you don't have to do anything. You're basically going to get hit on Gallant every single time, and only time Liz is going to get hit is you're going to get hit when the boss AoEs. So Liz ultimate will keep you alive a very, very long time. Gallant ultimate will kill the boss if you end up saving a 3-star of his main attack ability. The boss has a mechanic where he removes a debuff every single turn. Doesn't matter how many debuffs you have, it just removes 1 debuff. All right, so the third fight we're going to be doing is going to be the PvP fight here. We're going to be fighting our Gallon composition that we just fought, and I'm going to go ahead and be using a Green Elizabeth with a Coin Bond, and I'm going to use a, what's his name? Fat King, and I'll also use Death Pierce here. The reason I'm using Death Pierce is because why not? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for your third unit or fourth unit. The main two units here I'm using are units to kill blue units in area of effect attack in order to clear the run very quickly. For the next fight, we got Cain. Cain is probably the simplest of the fights, even though he seems very difficult if you don't know what to do initially. So the key unit to bring no matter what is going to be Red Slader. He makes this, he trivializes this whole fight. You don't even have to worry about it. The other two units, or three units you want, just hardest damage hitting units you want to bring, Demon Meliodas, whatever you want, does not matter. There are tons of options, does not matter what units you bring for those three slots, just you're bringing as much damage as possible. Red Slader is the counter to this fight. The really interesting thing about this fight is that the boss will only use debuff abilities, so you don't actually have to worry about anything because Slader will lock out all abilities that are not attack skills. So you're just stunned once you use it. And I'm going to go ahead and use a Benny Marco attack here, and then I'm going to go ahead and just drop a Mod Speed attack too. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and use Mod Speed Ultimate, Mod Speed Attack, and then Mod Speed another attack, and we're done. But overall, the Cain fight is probably one of the easiest as long as you have Red Slader. The other units don't matter, so just bring the highest damage units you want to bring. And if you get a good RNG in Red Slader, you can lock out the boss indefinitely. Green Demon is a very simple fight because this is one of the few fights in here that you can actually use crowd control effects on in order to completely lock out the boss. I'm going to be using a Red Lizhawk as well as a Red Merlin and Gustav in order to do this fight. And the last unit is Vivian because, you know, I just needed somebody to fit that spot. The damage character that you can use, it does not have to be Red Lizhawk, but she does kind of make the most sense because she won't be taking hits the entire fight, giving you a large amount of wiggle room to play with and get her stats up. Nice thing here is all I'm going to be doing first 2 turns or so is I'm just going to be dumping as many abilities as possible and then ending with a freeze every single time. That's really all there is to this fight, is that you're going to dump abilities and drop freezes. There isn't any other kind of special mechanics you have to worry about besides the boss's heal. Now, the reason I'm using this team instead of using Helbram is because on this particular fight, every time a debuff wears off, you can see there the boss heal for 16,200. Every time debuffs wear off, the boss is going to heal. So I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to just reset that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and merge this right here. I'm going to go ahead and move this right here. And then I am going to drop this. The reason I want to keep that ability is because that prevents the boss from healing. And I can actually keep that debuff on the boss for multiple turns, giving me a nice little wiggle around to play around with. So I'm going to go ahead and move this Liz ability over here. I'm going to drop this ultimate ability and then freeze on the Merlin. And then we're just going to keep doing this over and over and over again until we get the cards we want or we get Liz Ultimate up in order to kill the boss very quickly. Next fight up is going to be the hardest or second hardest of the blue fights. We're going to be fighting a blue Guila. And blue Guila is just a straight up nuke fest. So you have to nuke her before she nukes you down. That's all there is to it. There is a large amount of damage she's going to put out on you. She acts just like Red Guila, so she's going to do tons of damage. My team here is just going to be an Escanor team with Lilia. And I'm using Helbram here just, you know, why not? and we're using Alioni support in order to give us more attack skill damage. So if you do want to boost your team as much as possible, there's a lot of different routes you can go. You can use a Lilia to debuff the boss in order to give yourself a little more damage. You can use Helbram boost in order to boost your team. There's tons of variations of what you can do. I'm just going to boost with Helbram here because we're going to get a Lilia merge right after and do damage as best as possible. You can use an attack skill down ability with Lilia, and it does work, so you will be able to do that if you do want to. But on the Guila fight, it's just a straight up slugfest. Whoever does the most damage wins. He's going to go straight for my Helbram here, and nice thing about Helbram's passive is that against Guila, it's going to be very effective because if he does die, he'll still stay alive for that one extra turn here. Boom. Even though he's level 50, he's still 1 HP, he's still alive. Boom, we win. All right, next up we have the PvP fight. I believe we're fighting our Merlin team. I'm not 100% sure, but if not, then oops. And I'm going to go ahead and build my team here. I'm going to use some attack food because I actually want CP. And I'm going to use a blue Meliodas team with a blue Golgius for AoE attacks, as well as a blue Gilthunder, and then using the SR blue Jericho in order to get myself a 10% attack skills boost. Next in the Rocket Docket, we have Bon, and Bon is going to be a very similar fight to the Demon fight. Bon is going, it does not, I don't believe you're able to attack seal Bon, but you are able to crowd control him just like you were on the monster fight. So I'm going to be using a Gilthunder with King and Helbram, as well as Elaine, because, you know, why not? But it doesn't really matter who your fourth unit is. Gilthunder, King, Helbram is probably the team comp I was using for Bon. Bon is a little bit more difficult because he does a large amount of damage, so I would recommend using a crowd control team on this particular fight just so that you have a little bit easier of a time. Going into the fight, very simply, you're just going to pick the character that has the most amount of freezes, and the character for me this time around is going to be, of course, King. So I'm going to go as a boost onto King. I'm going to drop a heal and then drop a freeze in order to get that done. So overall, the fight is very, very similar to the last fight. You are just going to be freezing the boss over and over and over again until you have enough damage to kill him at the end. There. Next fight up, we're going to have the blue Gilthunder. And Gilthunder is probably the easiest of the blue fights. There's not a lot he does besides just single target one character and then go through. So I'm going to be bringing just the full damage team. Doesn't really matter what you bring here. This team, there's not really too much of a gimmick. If you really wanted to counter stances, you could bring somebody that does do that. But there's not a ton of units that really to bring for that specific situation. Overall, you really only have to be aware of his ultimate. Other than that, he doesn't do a ton of things throughout the run. I brought Cain here in order to do some ignites with Cain. So I'm going to go ahead and use an attack boost, use an ignite on my Cain, and use a Jericho. Oh, guess I'm using a Jericho bleed. Didn't mean to do that, but okay. All right, I guess we're doing that way. Sure. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Next up, we have, in my opinion, the hardest fight in the cave, which is going to be the Red Helbram fight. Now, the Red Helbram fight, there's a lot of different variations of teams that you can run. Personally, this is my favorite variation of team to run. I'm going to be running a blue Lizhawk with a Lilia, and then I'm also running a blue Gilthunder in the back line. This gives me a 60% defense boost to my entire team, giving me a large amount of defense when I'm doing this run, because this is actually a very nice thing, because Helbram will do an area of effect attack on your team, giving you a large amount of damage you're taking. The reason I'm bringing Lilia is because she has a heal, so just in case I get in trouble, I can actually heal my whole team up back into full, giving me a little bit of extra boost. Nice thing about Blue Lizhawk is that she does do a large amount of damage if she has buff on herself, and since there's lots of debuffs being placed in your team, you're able to get lots of stacks on Lizhawk. Blue Bond is here just as a filler. Alright guys, so the last fight we're going to do is a PvP fight. I believe we're fighting... Actually, I don't even remember what we're fighting. But we're fighting one of our team combos. I have a lot of units left over. Obviously, this is not going to be the case for everybody. So you're going to try to use an area of effective team in order to beat the fight. Whatever team composition you're going to be fighting against, it's going to have to fight against that. But this is different every time. I typically will save area of effect version characters just so that when I get to the fights where I have to fight my own teams, it's a lot easier to do. I recommend doing something similar because it will make your life much, much easier as time goes on. Alright guys, well I hope this was helpful for you guys and you guys give you a little bit of ideas on what to use for the cave. I still had a lot of units left over and there's many other variations of teams I could have done for those fights. But there are many other, as I said, there's many other units you could have used. There's lots of replacements for a lot of the teams I used in order to beat the cave. So you guys, do you have other teams you want to use? Please let me know in the comment section down below. But again, my name is Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, like, subscribe, all the fun stuff. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.